All right, take two. Thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of the All Cardinals podcast. My name is Donnie Drew, and we are overcoming technological difficulties. I'm with my main man, Richie Bradshaw, here at Richie Brads36 on Twitter, at Donnie Drew on Twitter. Thank you so much for tuning in to follow our work at allcardinals.com or side.com/NFL/Cardinals. Richie, the Arizona Cardinals were not able to pull out another come from behind victory falling to the Houston Texans in 21-16 fashion in Week 11. They now dropped to 2-9 on the season. We have 2 full games of Kyler Murray under our belt. Everybody was super impressed by his return at home against the Atlanta Falcons in Week 10. Obviously, with that game-winning drive ultimately to set up Matt Prater for the game-winning field goal. Last week looked a little different, not quite maybe the superstar people had hoped him to be. What are your overall thoughts and takeaways from his Week 11 performance?
Dude, he's coming back from an ACL tear. Like, I don't understand why we're not developing some patience here for him. We're immediately going right back to the Kyler Murray's either great or Kyler Murray sucks. This was a performance that was not even close to one of his 5 worst, was not even close to one of his 10 worst career performances. But you would think that the way he's been trashed from this game and this performance, that he would have gotten to that point. And that frustrates me because he deserves a little bit of credit for, coming back from an ACL tear when you're talking about a quarterback that relies on his legs as much as he does. He had a quality game. It just, yes, he missed some deep balls. Every quarterback does that. It's not exclusive to Kyler Murray, but these things happen when you don't play football for 11 months. We just need to give him more patience than we're willing to, because it feels like we are immediately right back to trashing Kyler Murray. And I don't think that that's the way that you need to go about this. Give him some time, man. Like, it's one thing if this is happening next year when he's had a whole new year to recover from this. He's literally in game 2. Can we not just immediately go back to hating on him?
Yeah, I think the mobility was a big concern for everybody coming off that injury. I think he looks just fine,
Yep.
scattering around in the backfield. I think the decision making, which has always kind of been something people have held above Murray's head, is still like not questionable, but there's still some improvement that needs to be there. Um, the arm strength. He missed a handful of deep balls. Granted, he had the opening drive touchdown to Rondell Moore where he put it right on the money, but I mean, it feels like Marquise Brown, no matter who's playing quarterback, just cannot get the ball thrown to him properly. And that's frustrating for him, but the ball slipped out of Murray's hands a couple of times. There were other times where he just flat out missed open receivers. Trey McBride comes to mind immediately on that 4th down. Um, for him to set the bar like he did last week against Atlanta, and for him to play so well, for him to look like he's in midseason form, you kind of felt there was going to be at least some regression coming. I don't think Murray played bad by any means, and to your point, he's 2 games into stepping back onto a field for the first time in almost a year.
Yep.
He's in a brand new offense. He doesn't have DeAndre Hopkins. There's going to be some time. There's going to be some adjustments that need to take place before he can really truly feel comfortable and like himself on the football field. That's also his first road game too. Not that that is any excuse for the lack of power on deep balls to Marquise Brown or lack of accuracy over the middle. Um, but still, there was a lot of factors working against Kyler. Uh, I still think he played fine. He was not the quarterback out of the 2 that was considered an MVP candidate and threw 3 interceptions on the day. That was CJ Stroud, who still looked pretty damn good on his own accord, but that's a Texans podcast, the discussion in question. My first question for you, or does yesterday or Sunday worry you at all? Because I don't feel like Cardinals fans should see what Murray did and then revert back to, oh my God, we need Caleb.
No, this is not a game to panic about. It just isn't. Like, it could have been a lot worse going up against a defense that has really played very sound, very good football. Like, yes, there was a really not great interception to Derek Stingley Jr., but outside of that, I mean, he completed 67% of his passes. He was about 7 yards per attempt. He had a nice touchdown to Rondale Moore that you mentioned. Yes, there were some misses. He could have been better, but that's the case for every quarterback.
Yeah,
We are so guilty of always placing Kyler Murray under a microscope. And it's not fair to judge him every single week. It's certainly not fair to judge him coming back from such a major injury. It's annoying to me, honestly, that we're immediately going right back to placing him under said microscope. Give him some time, man. Like, yes, it could have been a better game. It could have been a lot worse. This is a
true,
really good defense. Give
true.
him credit.
Yeah, I think if you had Clayton Tune or Josh Dobbs in there, well, maybe not because like Dobbs somehow is finding
Yeah.
a way to keep the Vikings relevant, and that's just nuts, man. But I mean, and Arizona fans saw the other side of the coin on Josh Dobbs, and it wasn't exactly pretty the last couple of games before his tenure here ended. I feel
Right.
like Kyler, despite not playing all that great, still kept him in the game until the very end. He did damage on the ground too. I think he had somewhere around 50 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. So he still very much brought value to other places. I did have an observation I wanted to run by you because so long into this year, we've been talking about Drew Petzing and the vastly different offense that Kyler is going to be able to work under. We're talking like a true, like not ground and pound, but like establish the run first. A lot of quarterback under center stuff. We really haven't seen that a whole lot with Kyler Murray, especially last week, where I felt like 90% of the plays were Kyler Murray out of shotgun. And whenever it comes to trying to establish the run, you don't allow James Conner to build some steam as he's getting going whenever he gets the rock handed to him. And a lot of the same, not characteristics, but the same um, qualms people had about Cliff Kingsbury's offense and putting Kyler Murray in shotgun and becoming a little bit more predictable just in terms of what the Cardinals can do. I feel like a lot of that came back to fruition on Sunday. Am I crazy? Am I imagining things, or did you kind of feel the same way?
No, I definitely felt like it was an offense that was familiar to Kyler Murray, and that's not necessarily a good thing. They,
Now, granted, I want to touch on a point you had brought up. It's week 2,
yep,
and so how do you balance making sure he's comfortable on top of, okay, this is what we run here. Here's what you need. Here's what you need to know.
right. You can't just throw him into a brand new offense for a variety of different reasons. It's not like he had an entire offseason to get used to this thing. He's had what he started getting ready towards the end of October, something like that, starting
Yeah.
to get ready for eventually getting ready to play again. Like, get any quarterback needs some time. Patrick Mahomes, if he was coming off an ACL, would need more than 2 games to get back into rhythm here. It's just a part of the game. So there needs to be a grace period. I feel like he's not being given that grace period right now.
I feel like a lot of that is just it's Kyler Murray. It's a name a lot of
Yep.
people, both in and out of Arizona, are familiar with. There's been times where he's made himself an easy target, but I think you hit the nail on the head. A lot of it is just so undeserved. There's another big test this week whenever the Rams come to town. Obviously, Aaron Donald being the massive human being that he is. So we'll see how things kind of progress for Murray as well. If you had to call your shot right now, I I feel like the Caleb Williams discussions have been put to bed temporarily. I
For now,
think they'll come back up in the offseason, but right now, it, it's trending towards Kyler being here in 2024.
I would 100% agree. He has made guys like me and you and several other media outlets look really dumb for placing the Cardinals in that situation. And quite frankly, there's a very good chance they don't even have the number 1 pick because of how dreadfully bad the Carolina Panthers have been this year. But if the Cardinals were to somehow land the pick, it feels like they would be much better off auctioning off that pick and getting just a king's ransom. Look at what the Bears got for Bryce Young last year. That's the bar. That is the minimum. And Caleb Williams is a much better prospect than Bryce Young is. You're talking about getting multiple first round picks, multiple day 2 picks, potentially a Pro Bowl level kind of player. That's where the Cardinals should be looking right now. not so much at Caleb Williams and hitting the reset button. And you also know that there is a established relationship between Kyler Murray and Jonathan Gannon. Those guys instantly clicked.
Yep.
And it's not like they're estranged to each other. That would be a completely different situation if those guys were not getting along or it was very awkward between the two. But it felt like from day one, Jonathan Gannon had in his head that he wanted to establish a relationship with a quarterback who has been with the team for, several years at this point, who has this contract, who has a lot of uh, not ability, familiarity with the organization, with the city, with the valley, with the guys that are on this team. It would be really difficult to hit the reset button. So seeing him establish a connection was very important. And now through the 2 games of him looking pretty darn good, in spite of 1 touchdown pass against 2 interceptions, it could be a lot worse. And again, seeing what the Bears got from the number 1 pick last year, let me ask you this. Would you rather try and unload a ridiculous contract for Kyler Murray, and let's say you get 2 first-round picks, or would you rather get a Chicago Bears trade, know that you're going to stick with Kyler Murray for better or for worse, but be able to get a lot more ammo? Which sounds better? Because in one case, you're getting a new quarterback on a rookie contract to start over with a new franchise, or not a new franchise, a new front office, or stick with what you know and then be able to build out the rest of the roster. Because I know where I'm leaning at the moment.
Yeah, I think that was such a massive question. You just perfectly painted that picture because that's pretty much the exact scenario the Cardinals, a lot of people would have thought found themselves in heading into this year, right? Um, you either started new with Caleb Williams or Drake May or whoever it may be, or you roll with Kyler. And like from an organizational standpoint, only on paper, if you're rebuilding, it makes sense to get that rookie quarterback contract because that's just the pristine Super Bowl window.
Right. Well, and especially
Being
with a guy
reali-
like Caleb
being
Williams.
being realistic, the second option just sounds so much better. And this is a phenomenal segue because as of right now, I do want to get in some draft talk. As of right now, the Cardinals have the number 2 pick from their own, and then they're at number 20 with Houston, if I recall
Maserati
correctly.
Marv.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah, they're a playoff team, just like we all predicted.
Yeah, right. Chicago, whether they stay or they go, feels like Caleb Williams at this point in time is going to go number 1. At number 2, I mean, there's so many things you can do. You can trade down, get a monster haul that we've seen teams try to go up and get their franchise passer for in the past. I mean, the Cardinals traded down from, was it number 3 or number 4 last year?
From
Number 3.
3.
Yeah,
Real
number
quick,
3.
let me
Yes,
propose something to you.
I do.
Babe, oh my God, what are we going to tell Haley?
Yeah.
Let me propose this to you. If the Bears have number 2 and number 6, they offer you those 2 to move up to number 1. Just those, nothing else. Would you do it knowing you would have? I was going to say, I think I would do that every day of the week and twice on Sunday.
Yeah, so you said 2 and 6?
Yeah, I'm trying not to give them 2 top 5 picks. Well, how about 2 and 8? We'll say somehow the Bears string together like 2 more wins.
Yeah.
I would do
Yeah,
that too,
I'll take
especially in this draft class.
to go from 1 to 2. Because if you're keeping
Maserati
Kyler,
Marv.
yeah, if you're keeping Kyler, you're already not interested in Caleb. Number 8 is still a top 10 pick, and then you still have the Texans pick, which is going to be hovering a little around the last 10 of the draft order. I mean, that's 3 first-round picks in a very, very talented draft class.
An unbelievable draft class. This is looking
Un,
like one of the
un,
best of the last 10 years.
you take the talent available, and then you take the football mind that is Monty Austin who has already done a great job on the early returns of his first 2023 draft class. If I'm a Cardinals fan, I'm so excited. I am massively excited for what the team can do. I mean, 6 picks in the first 3 rounds.
Yeah.
$65, $66 million in cap space heading to 2024. I mean, there's legit belief that if things go
And you turn
perfectly,
yourself
which
into a wild card
obviously
team
don't,
like that.
you can be a postseason contender, which is not
Yep.
something you would have thought at this point
You're
last
thinking a
season moving
2-3 year
forward.
rebuild going into this.
100%. My question to you: the Cardinals are sitting at number 2. Everybody knows the Marvin Harrison Jr. hype train. It is well deserved. Do you sprint to the podium? Do you trade back and get more ammo? If you're Austin for, what are you doing?
No, you do the right thing and you listen to offers because this is a elite draft class. Let's say New England calls you about Drake May at number 2 and you would still stay inside the top 5. Yes, you do that. Because you're just accumulating ammo at that point. And this is clearly a front office that overreaction, admittedly an overreaction. They know how to draft. This is one of the best draft classes the Cardinals had in recent history. I mean, we're talking about Garrett Williams and Keitrell Clark and Michael Wilson that
I
have,
mean, Parrish has struggled, but he still looks like a
but
cornerstone
he
guy for
still
his
looks like a
future.
cornerstone.
Yep. BJ Ojulari, I think Kyle Odegaard
Mhm.
tweeted out today.
Dude, he's
Ojulari leads
really
all
starting to
rookie
come
in
around.
sacks. Yeah.
He's come around big time. They're showing, and again, one draft class, total overreaction. Will 100% own that. But you give them 3 more first round picks. We'll say New England probably sends you one next year so they can get May. Like, this is the right thing to do. Obviously, Maserati Marv is very much the flash pick that every single fan wants. But you just also have to understand from a team building standpoint that getting 3, 4, 5 players in the top 64 picks is worth a lot more than getting Marvin Harrison Jr., which is heresy for some people. And I would totally understand the other argument to it because if you don't get the offer you want, then yeah, that is a slam dunk pick. We're talking
I was
about
going to
a
say that you can't go wrong.
no, you're talking about a borderline generational prospect. I would say generational when you talk about a guy who's 6'4", who's as big as he is with the catch radius, and we're projecting him a 4.3 40.
I
Yes,
mean,
that is a
when your
generational
dad is
player.
a Hall of Famer
Yep,
and you're already a better prospect than your dad was coming out of college, 6'4" can do basically anything on a football field. Yeah,
and
I
he's
think the
fast.
generational tag is probably well deserved.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with giving him that at all.
To your point though, if you move down, there's still a handful of other just like game changing receivers you can probably go grab. I mean, Keon Coleman is the first name that pops up. There's another guy
Malik
making
Neighbors,
crazy noise right now too. Yeah.
that's wide receiver too, and I think by a wide margin.
And so plenty of options exist for the Cardinals to go. I think they're kind of in a similar position to last year to where there's really no right or wrong answer. I mean, if they would have stuck at number 3 and they would
And
have
took
taken
Will
Will
Anderson.
Anderson, that would have been a great pick. If they would have taken Jalen Carter, that would have been a great pick. But they traded down. They got more draft ammo for this year. They ended up taking Paris Johnson Jr., which I think is still a very, very good pick at this point in time. I don't know, man. The pieces of the puzzle are there. Monty Austin Ford has done such a strong job building this team for the future. And dude, if they hit, I don't think a wild card spot is out of the question at all heading into next year, like you said.
Not at all. Especially you talk about a weak NFC conference. You talk about getting so many potential blue chip guys. Another scenario for you. Let's say you get, I'll say Marvin Harrison Jr., Laiatu Latu, the defensive end from UCLA, and the kid from Penn State, Kalen King at corner.
Okay.
Uh, that's slam dunk. That's 3 A+ picks. Yeah, don't even have to think about it.
No,
That
and there's
that is instantly game changing.
the good thing about where Arizona's at right now, and also kind of a bad thing, is that there's so many holes in the roster. I feel like you can't go wrong with
Yep.
any of those like top draft picks. I mean, corners are going to be in need. You can always beef up the front 7, but like you need you need a dog in the interior, right?
Ooh,
You need somebody um, in the front seven.
glad
You
you
need
locked in.
another talented receiver. You can always add more offensive line talent. So I think if they don't go Caleb, if they don't go MHJ, if they end up with like Joe Walt or like Olu from Penn State, and then add just like a receiver or somebody else on the back end with their other pick from Houston, that's not selling jerseys, that's not selling season tickets, but damn, like, are you building a good
Dude, you
foundation for football?
love building trenches. That's where football games are
You
won.
have to, man.
You have to. You have to. Knowing that you could get bookend tackles for the first time probably since the days of, oh my God, I can't even think of the Hall of Fame
Levi
right
Brown.
tackle they had. Huh?
Levi Brown.
Yep, that's the one.
Yep.
Pittsburgh Steeler legend Levi Brown.
Okay.
No, you're talking about getting bookend tackles when you've got a franchise quarterback. That's as good as it gets.
Yeah.
Then you talk about he's got some good weapons. Let's give him a guy in the late first round like Roma Doomsday. You could give him Troy
Great
Franklin.
nickname.
I love it. I love it.
It's
And I'm
such a
waiting for
good
it to gain
nickname.
traction.
Doomsday? Yeah.
Doomsday. Yes. Dude, give him Doomsday, give him Troy Franklin, give him oh man, there's so many receivers in this class, man. Like you don't need to take Marvin Harrison Jr. with a top 5 pick when you've got so many other guys who profile as a number 1 receiver, like Keon Coleman, like they're available.
Yeah. I'm excited. There's
Yes.
still a handful of regular season games to go. The Cardinals are projecting to get a top draft pick. We'll see if they can beat up the Bears for the number 1 pick. And I think if they do get the number 1 pick, things will get really interesting because if I'm Monty Austin I know I have the keys to the Bugatti of another person's franchise, and I'm getting a haul for the ages, right? But
Right.
we can get into that a little bit later. Cardinals are in a good spot with Kyler. They're in a good spot with the 2024 draft. I'm so excited to continue breaking everything down. I mean, you've done such a great job with the mock drafts on allcardinals.com. We're going to get the offseason is going to be crazy. So I'm so excited for all the things we have planned content wise. Until then, though, do you have any closing parting thoughts on this?
Maserati Marv.
Maserati Marv. Can't go wrong. You either draft some at 2 or, you trade down and get some bulk draft capital. But either way, we'll be here to break it down and cover it. Thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of the All Cardinals podcast. My name is Don Enjoy, joined every week by my main man, Richie Bradshaw. Follow our work at allcardinals.com or sa.com/NFL/Cardinals. And we will see you next time.